Welcome you to this seminar, Inspiring Cambodia. My name is Elena Cordani. I am the Managing Director of Interlingue, a translation company and an ebook niche publishing house. We publish works by new authors from around the world, and we publish novels, poem collections, children's books and essays in English and in the original language. I am now honoured to introduce you to David Mead, our Australian author and friend, who wrote a collection of poems about Cambodia and its people during his long stay in this beautiful country that, however, experienced very sad periods in recent history. So I leave the floor to David, and then there should be a question and answer session, but I'm not sure that we are going to have it, however. And later on we'll connect live through Skype with our English author, Snehal Akim, who will join us live from Cambodia via Skype. So,
thank you, Alan.
Thank you very much. Would you like to?
Yes. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Mead. I'm the author of The Churning. And I'd first like to talk about myself, so you know a bit about me before I get into the poetry of the book. I'm a retired Australian Army colonel who lived and worked in Cambodia for almost 10 years. My last appointment in a 30-year infantry career in the Australian Army was as the Australian Defence Attaché. Phnom Penh, that was from 94 until 97. After leaving the army, I returned to Cambodia to work in the field of forest and wildlife conservation, while also devoting time to some journalism, my poetry of course, to the establishment of the Association of the Blind in Cambodia, the establishment of the Association of Buddhists for the Environment in Cambodia, and to a number of other philanthropic type endeavours. As a Vietnam veteran, I had experienced the carnage and ongoing trauma caused by mines. When a young platoon commander, I lost 3 killed and 13 wounded on 2 mines on the night of the 4th of July 1969. For those who remember the TV series MASH, I owe my life to Australian Huey helicopter pilots who evacuated us from a hostile area at night, and to an American surgeon in a MASH-like 36 evacuation hospital in Vung Tau. We obviously cut short the hospital's 4th of July party. As one of the seriously wounded, I was evacuated to Australia but returned to Vietnam as a young captain in 1971. Given that as my background, Cambodia's mine horror, the effects of the Khmer Rouge regime, and the continued suffering of innocent civilians and untrained soldiers during a period of political instability and conflict became the catalyst of my writing. The poems and photographs of The Churning reflect my feelings for the plight and suffering of ordinary Cambodian people and for the lot of the ordinary soldier. My hope is that this book will give you an insight into how the Khmer Rouge touched and still touch almost every Cambodian family and every Khmer. The book was 4 years in the making and is my first. I would like to take any questions you have at the end of the presentation. We move on to the next slide. As a backdrop to the poetry, The Churning begins with a short history of Cambodia concentrating on the Khmer Rouge Pol Pot era. Here's an extract. A master survivor, Prince Sihanouk may wish to be remembered as a divine leader and the saviour of his people, although numbers of his subjects did not survive his early authoritarian reign, which spawned the insurgent movement of Pol Pot. In 1970, while absent from the country, Sihanouk was overthrown in a coup d'etat by the pro-US General Long Nol. Long Nol's pro-US stance spurred North Vietnam's deployment of the Viet Cong deeper into Cambodia, and influenced no doubt by massive US B-52 bombing raids, drove more people and areas into the hands of the Khmer Rouge. America's loss of the war in Vietnam and its decision to withdraw also spelt the end of a corrupt and puppet Long Nol regime. Cambodia's darkest hours descended on the country on April the 17th, 1975, when the Khmer Rouge entered Phnom Penh. The events which flowed from that day are well recorded and well known. Phnom Penh was emptied of all people, and the Pol Pot leadership through Angkor, the organisation, as it became known and feared, commenced an experiment to attempt to create a classless, harmonious agrarian society. Over 1.5 people died in this experiment. Now to some of the poetry. Next slide, please. Pei Lin, in the far northwest of the country, which is famous for ruby and sapphire mining, was a Khmer Rouge stronghold. This is the spot on the road from Pei Lin that the KR reached when they tried in 1994 to capture Battambang, the second largest city in Cambodia. Pei Lin itself was later captured by government forces in a so-called dry season offensive, but soon lost again. And now to the poem. Gone to capture Pei Lin. A soldier, hardly, untrained, poor, from the fields, no money to avoid service, gone to capture Pei Lin. A weapon, 20 rounds, bits of a uniform, food, some pay. The general brings cigarettes, gone to capture Pei Lin. A mine, primed, unseen, waiting for the farmer, gone to capture Pei Lin. The deafening blast, the pain, the chaos, the shattered bones, the bloodied ground, our soldier farmer, face down, hand clenching soil has gone to capture Pei Lin. Next slide, thanks. One of the first things the Khmer Rouge did when they came to power was to kill the monks, including the monks on St. Po Mountain, which overlooks the road to Pei Lin. If you look in the northwest of the map, you'll see Battambang, and it's the road from Battambang to Pei Lin. The mountain later became a more notorious killing ground for the local people. Next slide. This poem is simply called Phnom St. Po, or St. Po Mountain. At distance through the choking dust, the object of our gaze, high-angled terracotta roof, browns on yellow mid simmering haze. The wat at Phnom St. Po clings high above the patchwork brown. Monks in saffron chanting prayer, echoes float from hill to ground. Sheer rock protects a monument to worship and to terror. 500 steps till lost from sight. A living few remember. The human chain laboured up the cliff, shuffled past the wat, long empty. It disappeared inside the mount. The wat now keeps their sentry. Above an opening, beneath the cave, the 4 100-foot, they clubbed them to their death below without a second look. Some were hooded, others not, all weak through sickness, hunger. Smothered bodies on jagged rocks, layered father, mother, brother. This open grave now a mausoleum, ragged bones, blind skulls piled high. Though our eyes see, the mind quite numbed, can only stutter, why, oh why? This cannot be, it is not true. Why did these people die? Oh God, there must be more we do than turn away and cry. And the next one. I saw with mine own eyes the conditions under which young, badly wounded soldiers were treated in so-called military hospital systems. Many of those who did not survive were cremated at night with families having no knowledge of their death. This poem is simply called They Died. So few in defence of the nation, so few in defence of its soil, so few for leaders of men, so few believing, some for a friend. For power, greed, revenge, in the name of politics, race and ideology. Lured by the adventure of youth, the promise of money, for some general, a prime minister, princes, for one regime or another, for the king. Without training, without equipment, when paid, a pittance. From bullets, from the jagged shrapnel of shell, grenade and rocket. From that unseen dread when every halting, churning step saps man and mind, long before blast rips limb from body, flesh from bone, to leave him utterly broken. Or caught beneath an exploding orange carpet laid by beings remote from earth, blind to the sight of inflicted horrors and deaf to the cries of the dying. Alone, or clinging to the back of a friend, splintered leg, nothing for pain. Jarred on the bare boards of an open truck, tourniquet unchanged. In the heat, in the dust, no medic, only the friend, crying. In a room they call an operating theatre and after. Of infection, no money for medication, from malaria, TB and from HIV. Most poor, not even counted, spirited away, unseeing and unseen, hidden by body-snatching thieves, cremated alone in the dark. Ashes and souls wait ashes and souls, their only escort. Families before have so little, now nothing. Sons, brothers, husbands, fathers, they died. Will they return? Surely as kings pray it be so, and let them watch the worms who once fed on their bodies now eat the dirt on which young blood was spilt. As well as having supporting photographs, which you see here, some of my poems can be shaped to give a visual effect as well. If you'd have the next slide. Next slide. I imagine that this could represent an urn full of ashes. And so I've shaped it that way. Next slide, please. Next slide. These could be some of the women waiting for their loved ones or news of their loved ones. And the next one. This poem is about Mao, a blind masseur, and it speaks for itself. It's called No Tears for Mao. Orphaned at 4, father, mother, more innocent victims of Long Knoll. Cared for by neighbours until Pol Pot herded him and them and all away, towards the unknown, to an unspeakable, mindless existence, year 0. A time before love, kindness, before compassion, before dignity, almost before man. At end, families just threads. His, grown, adopted by a 12 years older sister. Boy of 6 to glazed-eyed youth of 9, survivor of Angkar, at least in body. No home, the 2 orphans, clad in their possessions, join the thousands, the weak, the broken, through a broken country, shuffling south to the city, to salvation, to the streets of Phnom Penh. In the city they claim a place, a shed, a roof, for now their own, one step, a small beginning, a start to living. Child and sister, 2 of thousands, trading cakes and sugar for rice, grain by grain towards salvation, daily selling, nightly toiling, unconscious goal, regain that stolen, our dignity and a life. Weeks till 2 months, still the roof, some possessions, she insistent, schooling, Mao, you must learn to read and write, don't worry the government ruling. Under 7, 3 years, so many, a stroke, look, gone, discarded. Were it so easy? But the orphan boy takes up the challenge for Mao and education. She nurtures the daily growth of her only family. He studies for her and for his life. 7 years, good grades, summer hire, teachers agree. He's earned his place. Sister despairs, there is no money. Such a fee for this free education. High school, a chance at university, status. How can you rob us? They look away embarrassed, on reflection drawn back to that face. Remember the glazed eyes, the poor orphan, these eyes gleam in their place. Mao is let in. Sister married, proud of her family, husband, a scholar, a child of her own. 12 years of waiting, dream to reality, this will surely help atone. Mao, still progressing, does not falter, 2nd year of his degree. Life's new plan mapped out before him and a world to see. Paris peace, soon elections, foreign soldiers all around, their country the focus, Phnom Penh its centre. Mao watches history and understands, survivor, orphan to man. The thief struck by night, wanting the motor, not Mao's sight, but the acid took it all, left writhing, burning, only pain. What in this did he have to gain? A moto for a life of struggle, he melts away, little trouble. The thief, a good night's work, at least $200. Mao, sight, light, everything lost. Beneath the gaze of the foreign surgeon saviour, he awakens. Tubes and bandages, disfigured, faceless, still hearing. When he has told all, Mao prays that he died. What is there left? Just this useless monster. Fiancé, family weep silently. He can't. Time, his fiancée, the sisters, loving care. Surgeons work slowly on the body, friends the mind. Mao, though blind, faceless, spirit unbroken, again wants life. 5 years. The patient, ligaments pulled, joints inflamed, lies beneath trained hands, that without sight find every point and pain. Such skill, he is so gifted. Should I ask, as muscles are needed, about the accident? Perhaps next time. Don't weep for Mao, share in his joy, his love of life renewed and his knowing he is whole. Mao now has a degree in English from the Phnom Penh University and is the president of the Association of the Blind in Cambodia. He is well known for his achievements with the blind and travels the world. He now has little time for blind massage, but he was a brilliant masseur, and that is how I met him. Seeing Hands massage parlours are still providing work for the blind, and a number of parlours have been established both inside and outside Phnom Penh. I think at the moment the Reader's Digest are doing an article on him, or writing an article about him. So if you read the International Reader's Digest, he'll soon appear. All right, the next slide, thanks. Now it's your turn to read some poetry. So if you could read at least the first 2 stanzas, or paragraphs, or verses, if you like, of the Fences. Sometimes, even with subjects as serious as mine, I found writing to be fun. I played with both the shape and the format of this poem. Let me read every second line of the first 2 verses you have read, for example. You cannot look in, they cannot see out. Inside the house, wooden, ordinary. The fence is always built first. Why this preoccupation with building fences? Are they perhaps just for show, or walls of the mind? Likewise, you can read the first, third, so on lines, which also make sense together. And the bridge in the bottom right-hand corner is from the 1200s, during the period of the Angkor Empire, and is still, I believe, in use today, even for heavy vehicles like petrol trucks. Next slide, thanks. The lotus. Lotus flower. I wrote the poem Lotus Flower as an epilogue to the book, the lotus being considered a sacred flower in Hinduism and in Buddhism. I linked that to the Tongli Sap Lake and the Hindu mythology regarding the churning of the sea of milk, where the gods and the demons rotate the column back and forward, and Vishnu the tortoise, topped by a blooming lotus flower, looks to find the elixir of life, or of afterlife. If you move to the next slide, you can see the Tongli Sap Lake, which is an amazing feature in itself, because from November to May, during the dry season, the river from the lake flows out into the Mekong and south and through Vietnam and out into the sea. But due to the great pressure of water flowing down the Mekong in the wet season, from June the river flows up into the lake to double its size, providing food for millions of fish to breed. In September it starts to flow out, and with it the fish. And once they're dried, they provide a large amount of the nation's protein all year round. Now we'll go to the last verse. Through time the vishnu tortoise carries on his back the lotus, carries love and trust and beauty against a tide of death and war, carries hope past playing children, carries faith past chanting monks, carries a people torn and weary up the river to the north. Near 2,000 years of churning he still seeks the Wanamat, seeks it for all people, the true elixir, peace. This is a passage of Angkor Wat containing the bas-relief about the churning of the Sea of Milk. And we could have the next one. And this is certainly not from my book because I only have black and white photographs in the book. This is courtesy of Google's latest effort to map Angkor Wat and the surrounding monuments. I recommend anyone to go and visit it. It's just a marvellous tour. Slide, thanks. And here's the cover of the book again and the final slide. You can see the little chap next to the 5-headed horse. That's the photo that I took for the cover of the book. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoy the book in inverted commas. There is some poetry not quite so serious in there, and I hope you enjoy the photographs, and thank you for the opportunity of doing this presentation. If you have any questions, I'd gladly take them now.
Thank you, David. Well, it was really very moving to hear your presentation and to listen to your beautiful poems. And apart from that, I think that it is very important that you wrote this book because it will remember forever what these people went through, and I think that the most important thing is to have memories of what happened in the past, because now perhaps we think of the future of going on and how beautiful Cambodia is, but we tend to forget what happened in the past. And I think that we must not forget what happened in the past.
Well, the Khmer Rouge international trial is still ongoing, but it costs a lot of money, and I don't know that it's going to give the answers that people want to.
Yes.
Why this happened to them, why 1.7 million people died in this experiment.
Yes.
But we'll see at the end of the process, but it's still ongoing.
Oh.
Any others?
I think that...
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.